Hello world, I'm Edward Francis II, and I am going to show you pretty compelling evidence that Charlie Kirk was assassinated using a high-tech device similar to the exploding pagers in Israel, but this time a wireless microphone on the inside of his shirt held there by a black magnet on the outside of his shirt. So all the conspiracies started because the damage to Charlie wasn't as bad as what should be expected from a 30-06 round. Not the typical neck damage you would see. So everyone started looking in different directions for different shooters, looking here, looking there, looking in the crowd, but they didn't see that it was right in the frame of Charlie and literally on him, where you could also see the exit wound that makes sense with what I'm about to show you. That was one of the other arguments, that the left side of his neck was an exit wound, and it didn't make sense. So the microphone he was wearing is a wireless one similar to this. And it also had a neck cord on it. We're not sure what that was made out of. It was probably very strong to keep the shirt from drooping and held in place by the magnet on the outside. If you're wondering why he had two microphones, one in his hand and one on his shirt, the one in his hand is for the PA system so that everyone in the crowd can hear him. The one on his shirt is recorded by their team and their archives along with camera footage. So the series of events starts out with who we call Brown Shirt Guy. Now, this person, interestingly, is part of an earlier conspiracy theory because he reached up on his shirt and did something weird at the exact moment that Charlie was shot.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
So people thought he had a gun in his hand that you couldn't see, like a little tiny one. But that's not what happened. He was hitting a detonator. Now, besides the video you just saw, he can actually be seen removing a detonator from his sleeve, which was probably taped to his skin in preparation for what you'll see in a moment involving two other individuals. So the series of events goes, he waits until he sees the shooter on the roof and triggers the detonation before the shooter on the roof. It's not very likely that Robinson ever even took a shot. Now, going over to Charlie Kirk, we see that right when he hit that button is right when Charlie got shot by something. And you can see a little puff of either smoke or chemical dust come up from his shirt. You can clearly see the outline of the collar of his shirt, and yet there's something right above it for a split second. And I don't think it's gunpowder, as I'll explain later. I think it's a chemical from a very highly concentrated chemical explosive. If you're wondering why the shirt bounces up and not down, or rather doesn't bounce down first when the shot is taken, it's because of the strong cord that's around his neck. But what does happen is the equal and opposite reaction, where it stops on the strong cord going down and then bounces up. Very obvious. Now, I'd also want to add that you have to remember the projectile and the chemical charge is designed exactly for this. It doesn't have to be overkill. They probably practiced this on cadavers, dead people for science or something worse. This is a state-level assassination if this is what actually happened. So it gets worse. The cover-up starts with a guy in a black shirt behind Charlie. He runs over and almost violently knocks Charlie to the ground. This is necessary because it needs to remove whatever was around his neck that killed him. Next, you see a checkered shirt guy come running up to the front, sliding on the table like the Dukes of Hazzard. He meets the black shirt guy and is handed something and puts it in his left pocket. Then, brown shirt guy had already been running towards the stage area, and checkered shirt guy meets brown shirt guy. Another handoff. Something goes in his pocket, and then he walks away. So that's it. And that's why no one in the crowd turned around and looked to where the shot came from, because they didn't come from anywhere. They were already looking in the direction that the shot came from. And remember, if you remember in the media, No one in interviews said, yeah, I heard a shot come from over there, or they point. You typically see that in situations like this when the shooter does get off a shot. He never did. So this is why this small, highly concentrated charge did not cause double odd 6 damage. And in fact, even the projectile was probably designed specifically for this. It could have been shaped like the coronavirus, except metal. It could have been shaped like some tetrahedron. I'm sure they did a bunch of experiments before this device was used, and it will be the last time. I promise you that. When they use this and you have this kind of evidence that's still out there, no other important person is going to wear those without having them checked out. Now you might be thinking, if this special chemical charge that is very minimalized because it only has to fire something into soft flesh to disturb arteries isn't going to be that loud, why did it sound that loud? The answer is in Charlie's hand. The handheld microphone is not connected in any way to the wireless microphone. So the wireless microphone was completely disabled upon the charge, and his handheld microphone carried that, let's call it firecracker sound, into the PA speakers and made a really loud noise, which made it sound like a gunshot. Take care.